Hey, welcome back, everybody. I just wanted to take a minute to address what Doc said the last segment about the motivation, social media, what we can do, what we can't do, and that's you're making the point that I agree with, that if we're going to do something, if we're going to say that now bear with me, because I'm about to issue a tautology, which is the most useless thing in all of logic, because it adds no truth value to the world. Just like liberalism. We can either do something or not do something. That is absolutely true in whatever context you put it in, right? We can either do something about these killings, or we cannot. We can either say we give up, or we can and it's just accept that this is our reality, which is a perfectly valid conclusion from the available premises of the argument. Or we can reject that and say it's not a valid conclusion and there are things that we can do. It has been my position this entire show that there is no winning when you're attacking the motivations of a person, which is why we have free speech, which is why we have, we don't prosecute thought crimes, that sort of thing in this country. That the only thing to do is to try and make us safer from the action itself. And we do that with bombs. Bombs are difficult to make. They're less efficient. It's hard to get all the stuff together. They're tracked. That's why bomb makers are arrested more often, because it's a lot more suspicious to buy a bunch of fertilizer all at once when you live in downtown New York City. Than, you know what I'm saying? So, although they're dangerous, I'm not saying that they're not. I'm saying that
it's easier to get fertilizer in New York City than it is a gun.
That I don't know is necessarily true, because you can get them in Vermont and bring them back over. But my point simply is that we do address things like bombs, knives. I mean, a knife is about as safe as you're going to make it. You're not, a knife in a sheath is about as safe as that knife is going to get. There are no features of a knife to just make it not a knife. And that's why I keep coming back to this business with guns. And I think that the point should be made that if we refuse to address how to make it harder for people to use guns to kill other people, whether that is changing how guns work themselves in some way to make it harder to shoot 50 people in 5 seconds, or whatever it needs to be, whether it needs to be the government coming in and making it financially feasible for the industry to support that sort of manufacturing goal, then I believe over time that the gun is going to go the way of the cigarette. Because we knew that we suspected cigarettes were bad for us. We suspected cigarettes were killing us. And industry stepped in and said, nope, it's not that. It's something else. And spent a lot of money on advertising and other things to make sure that, and made the freedom argument and said, hey, look, everybody, it's a risky behavior, but you're free to smoke because you're an American and you have those liberties, and any assault on that is assault on your liberty. And what we've seen is that as people learned more and more and more, and as it became more, we became more socially aware of the dangers of that particular product, that it was as safe as it could be made, that it couldn't be made any safer, and it was still killing people, that it has become less and less culturally appropriate to smoke, that we've seen the rates of cigarette consumption go down just steadily over the last several decades, and that people don't look at smokers the same way that they used to. It's not cool anymore. It's gross. I can see the gun, if we start with the premise that the gun is as safe as it's going to get, if we just have to accept people dying from guns, that over time, eventually, and I don't know what gun ownership looks like right now. I was trying to figure that out. I know there's about 300 million guns in the country, but I don't know if that means ownership is like, if more people are buying more guns or if fewer people are buying more guns. I don't know what that means. I'm not saying that, mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is I would tentatively predict maybe 50, maybe 100, however long, that it's going to become culturally inappropriate to own a gun. And if we care about the Second Amendment, if we care about gun ownership and the responsible relationship with guns in our society, then we should do something to address how guns kill people before we become a society that just doesn't care about the gun anymore, and then we may or may not have lots and lots of problems, or maybe a liberal utopia. Who knows? But in any situation, a culturally irrelevant gun would be hell on earth for you conservatives. That's the last point that I'm going to make. I'll let you have the last word.
What else are we going to cling to besides religion? No, I like, the truth is I like Lefty's idea. I would like to live in a world where I don't feel like I have to carry a weapon. I would like that world. Problem is right now that's not the world we live in.
That's not the world we live in.
And the truth of the matter is, and I'm not injecting politics here, the truth of the matter is, if I was a gay bar owner, I would have 4 or 5 armed, visibly armed people outside of my club, and I would have a metal detector, and I would have a pat down and say, it isn't our customers that we're harassing, it's those are the people we're trying to keep safe. I would put this back where things work best, the private sector. Put the onus on them. I remember Whitesnake. I don't know if you know Whitesnake, and they got the fire and everything else. Yeah, it ruined them. But look at all the changes that bars made voluntarily after that. Going, this is what happened. So we need to learn from this. Part of the problem that I see is we're not learning whatever lesson it is we're supposed to be learning. This is still happening. You have a guy who's living the American dream. He hasn't been droned. He has no excuse. No. I mean, we talk all the time on here. Geez, every time a bomb blows up over there, we've created more radicals. You said that about Bush. You've said it about Obama.
Yep.
This guy had no reason to be a radical. He isolated himself and did it. His wife, who they suspect is a radical herself, said, well, I told him not to buy the ammo for that. Well, maybe she's talking about maybe you need to pick a different venue, right? I don't know. But this guy, this is what he did. And the problem is we now have to face it. We have radical Islam and radical Christianity and radical all kinds of stuff in our country. And what we have to do is the same thing that we did with cigarettes. Make it so that being a radical doesn't mean that you get the right to be superior to other people, feel superior to other people, and execute people for living a life that doesn't have anything to do with you. That's the libertarian coming out in me, I guess. Anyway, I'm going to leave it up to you. Is there anything you want to close out the show with, or you want me to close the show?
We have 49 people dead in Orlando, and a country that mourns them and detests their killer. For all the frustration that we've talked about tonight in this hour, unfortunately, with the limited time that we haven't talked about the good things on every side of this that have happened. The folks donating blood in record numbers. Chick-fil-A feeding the people donating blood. The Orlando community on all sides, an interfaith coalition supporting people that have long felt ostracized from every faith that's out there. I'm not a silver linings guy because I hate tragedy like this, and I don't think it ever justifies good deeds. But the fact that we're a country that has and I said this in my piece, we're the country that invented the American Red Cross and the atom bomb. We cannot be defined by violence alone.
Well, I will tell you, that was a great exit. I wish I had something smooth like that to say, but I don't, except this. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We couldn't do what we do without you. We'll be back after this week.